Guys, this will be another Commentary Monday video. So I decided to make it a little bit of a jank deck to two of my chill sessions that I go to every once in a while with my friends here in the area. So I decided to play a deck called Eccentric Boy Vayu Turbo. Basically, it's Vayu Turbo but with Eccentric Boy in it. If you guys don't know what Eccentric Boy does, it's a card that you can synchro summon using one card in your hand only from your field. So if you go normal summon Eccentric Boy, you can synchro summon with a Sirocco in your hand. That's the ideal play. And then you're able to put both a Dark and a Wind monster in the graveyard. And then I also played Dark Cymorg. So Dark Cymorg allows you to basically lock out any sort of set strategies. So if your opponent likes to set cards like Raikou, Hamster, or even traps, going first turn Cymorg essentially makes it so that the game turns into, can I summon a monster that can wall up against the 2700 beat stick. So that's pretty much the strategy here. So yeah, I'm gonna go first in this matchup on the left side, and I'm playing against Diva Zombie Heroes. I think this is the deck that pretty much makes the format a lot faster. After play testing against this deck in particular, I would say that this format is a lot faster because of this deck. It's one of the decks that are combo based, and in a format with very few hand traps, no effect veiler, no max C. I think Diva Zombies or Diva Zombie Heroes is the one that cracks or makes the format a lot faster to where it becomes kind of unhealthy, in my opinion. But that doesn't matter. I'm still going to try the best of my ability to beat this matchup. If we were doing actual BO3, I would probably side in Deck Devastation Virus because it's really good against combo decks. So if I were to go first, I can basically make an arm wing as quickly as possible, and then set the Deck Devastation Virus and flip it so that I have free hand knowledge, and then shut off his combo plays. But enough rambling. I'm going to start the game now. So let's start this game off. So I do a play here where I just do a T set, and this is pretty much a classic opener for most decks. This basically means that your opponent has to guess if this is a Raikou, Hamster, and if this trap card is something that they should worry about, such as a D-Prison, Book of Moon, MST, etc. He starts his turn off. I don't play Dust Shoot in the main deck. I should play Dust Shoot. I think it would make my life a lot easier if I could just flip that card and then look at their hand and see what they have. But I don't play Dust Shoot. I should play Dust Shoot though. So I set the card down and he drops return. We're gonna do 2 times speed here because it'll make the game a lot faster. This is a 45-minute game, so we're doing a lot of strategizing, a lot of play testing, so I'm making sure that we optimize our strategy. So he matches me here with the set with no back row. He sets a Plague Spreader Zombie. I'm not sure what he has in his hand, but me destroying a... so most likely people thought that this is going to be a Raikou, and it was a Raikou. So I can probably much assume from this point of view that since he didn't set a Pyramid Turtle, he might have a Pyramid Turtle in hand because he doesn't want to get Raikou'd. And I can also assume that he doesn't have a Goblin Zombie in hand because he would have just set it, and then I would have just flipped the Raikou and kill it in this situation. So he doesn't set the Goblin Zombie, which means he most likely doesn't have it. And the next floater would have been a Plague Spreader Zombie. I decided to declare an attack with these two to bait out the Gores. He didn't set any back rows, so if I bait out the Gores, I do have a D-Prison set to deal with the Gores. So he doesn't have Gores here, so I fish it out, and he doesn't have it. I decided to set another back row. The reason why I set more into the Heavy Storm here is because he did lose a card off the Raikou. So if he Heavy Storms, it's more of like a recovery for him rather than a +1. Because he did lose one already. So he activates Future Fusion. I haven't prepared MST. I did set it earlier just in case he would have top decked it. So this way that if he does open it on his going first, looks like he does top deck into the Future Fusion here, so I was able to MST the back. One thing I noticed throughout this matchup is that he draws really well against me, so you can kind of see like my thought processes on why I set certain cards, and because he literally draws the out the next turn, it kind of like proves my point as to why I do things the way that I do. So he doesn't have I pretty much guessed that he doesn't have a Storm at this point because he would have done it before the Future Fusion. So that's how I infer that. So he does a set and he passes here. And then here I'm left with the option of I have a Dark Cymorg in my hand, and Dark Cymorg doesn't have to be special summoned, so I decide to tribute summon the Dark Cymorg, tributing the Vayu off and the Raikou off. And so before I do that, I don't want to proc a Raikou in case it is a Raikou, so I decided to attack with the Vayu into a face down first. And if it's a Raikou, he can destroy my other Raikou. But I'm pretty sure Diva zombie heroes don't play Raikou just because it's a power deck, combo deck. So what I'm thinking that this card is most likely a floater that he didn't want to lose the Raikou on first turn. So what I do instead is I poke, hoping it is a Pyramid Turtle or a Mystic Tomato. And here I take 300 damage here because it does have 1100 defense, which is good because if I attack with Raikou, I will lost more life points. At this point, I have the Chaos Sorcerer in my hand and I have the Dark Cyborg in my hand. So in order to add a light monster to my graveyard, I decide to sack these two off in order to make the Chaos Sorcerer. And the Chaos Sorcerer from here on out can check any sort of face down Pyramid Turtles, assuming he flips it. So I'll have to summon a monster that's weak so that I can force him to do it. So here I have a total of 5 cards here, while he has a total of 5 cards as well. So we're still even here on card advantage. The only +1 I had was the Plague Spreader zombie, but then I had to neg 1 because I had the Tribute Summon for Dark Cyborg. So here, even though I do decide to do this play, it is susceptible to a brain control play. I didn't have anything to out the brain control here. I pretty much, the deck has its flaws in being able to not push enough. So I have to be able to push even under brain control, and so brain control was really good here. He could have stolen my Chaos Sorcerer and banished the Dark Cyborg, summon top deck for Plague, and then make a level 8 Synchro. So I'm pretty much banking on him not having the brain. So here he makes Book of Life play, and he banishes the Vayu. With my Deep Prison set, I'm not sure what else I set here. Might be a Wing Blast. Yeah, it's a Wing Blast. The Wing Blast, since if he decides to set a, if he somehow gets rid of the Dark Cyborg here, and he sets a back row, I can Wing Blast the back row to the top of his deck, and if it's a simplified game state, essentially the Wing Blast makes it so that Dark Cyborg turns off the trap, and I don't have to worry about Gores because I top decked the trap. So I'm pretty much egging him on to make the Bryonac here, pitch the rest of the cards to bounce to these two, and since he knows I don't have a wind monster in the graveyard, it would be correct to bounce both the monsters here into the Bryo. So I make a Bryonac here, and I ask if he wants to call priority before if I even have a bottomless. Sometimes you kind of want to like sell the fact that you have a bottomless. So he discards 2 cards here, and he bounces back my Nami monsters. I gladly take it back. And here, because I didn't respond to his summon of Bryonac, I pretty much make him fear the Deep Prison or Mirror Force, because if I had activated any of the set cards to his bottomless or to his Bryonac, I would have done it right now. But since I didn't do any of that, it kind of makes him think it's a Deep Prison or a Mirror Force, so to prevent him from attacking. So with this one card, he sets a card, and you never want to be in this position because I basically forced him to go Bryonac here to discard it too, so he can set his back row. But look where he's at. He's has 2 cards in hand, and I have 4, and I'm going to draw to 5. So I'm definitely playing the card correctly, or the game correctly, because I do have the card advantage here. So even though I have the +1 here, I'm going to go -1 to guarantee the win, because I do have a Dark Cyborg in my hand. So with the Dark Cyborg, if I special summon it, I can run over the Bryonac, and he's going to top deck a spell or trap that he can't set or use. So my Dark Cyborg is going to be able to do another 2700 damage. Thankfully for me, I was able to summon a Sirocco here to pretty much end the game faster. Put him on a 2-turn clock. So I banished the Eccentric Boy that I dish off the Wing Blast and a Dark Monster, and then pretty much I win the game because it's solved. At this point, his spell or trap can't be used unless it's actually something that can be used as a spell, and so I win the game really quickly here. So yeah, that's pretty much showing you the power of Dark Cyborg. And the reason why I played Dark Cyborg with the Wing Blast is pretty clear here. As you can see that if he decides to set, if I force a Bryonac on a priority, I pretty much get him to set a back row, and then I just bounce back to back row and then spell summon the Cyborg again and running it over again. So he sets a monster here, and so in my head I'm like, okay, well, I definitely don't want to attack into a Pyramid Turtle. I don't have I'm able to set up the Raikou in the event that it is a Pyramid Turtle. So I can pretty much, if I draw into the Raikou, I would set it here. The only thing I'm worried about is if he flip summons a Goblin Zombie and normal summons Deep Sea Diva, it's pretty much game from there. Deep Sea Diva into a Bryanak with a Goblin Zombie pretty much makes it so that I have to answer the Bryanak right away, and I never want to be in that position. So I make the decision here either to attack the monster, so that he doesn't OTK me, and rely on my trap cards. Because I don't think I drew a trap card to out the Bryanak. So I make the Eccentric Arch-Boy, or the Eccentric Boy, and I declare an attack here, hoping it's a Pyramid Turtle. And it's a Pyramid, it is again a Mystic Tomato, so I take a 300 damage here. Okay, so here I can either choose to Synchro Summon, but I chose not to do that, and the reason why is because I don't want to commit too many resources, because he can essentially just tribute this off and make a Caius and banish my Synchro monster. And there's no Synchro monster currently that can stop a Caius from banishing my monster. So I decided to just pass here, hoping to proc or make him run over the Arch-Boy, the Eccentric Boy with the tomato. And then I don't set any back rows either, because in case I wanted to give the impression that I had a Gores, so that I can at least run over something. So he summons a Goblin Zombie, and this is great because I don't want him to set anything. If he sets something, I can get tricked into attacking it, so I choose not to do anything. He mills the Vayu, which is a really good mill for me because the Vayu here can generate a +1 for me. So off his Goblin Zombie, he was able to generate me a +1. Looks like I draw a Greffer here. I mull over my options here. I decide to set the Greffer here because this basically means that he has to normal summon a Synchro monster. And I think from this point of view, I think he draws a Deep Sea Diva here. He doesn't shuffle his hand, so it's kind of helpful for me to tell. Okay, so here pretty much the game is over. Because he's able to Synchro summon the Bryanak. I only have 7,700 life points. He Synchro summons into Bryanak. You can kind of see the combo here. He searches with the Goblin Zombie, he searches with the Mizuki. And then with the Mizuki, he can just ditch it to bounce back my card here. And it does look like I take the life point off the wrong side. I'm supposed to be at a lower life points here. Because he attacked with the Goblin Zombie directly, and he attacked over the Eccentric Boy. So that should have been 1,100 damage. No, it's 1,400 damage. So that 14 should have been off my life points. So it would have been 300 off of the Eccentric Boy attacking to the Mystic Tomato defense, and then another 1,400. So I should have been at lower life points. To make room for the Eccentric Boy and the Dark Cyborg, I took out the Necro Gardener out of my deck. But after today, or after that night when I was playing, I was like, maybe I should play a Necro Gardener back in my deck so that can actually prevent an OTK from happening. But I don't know. Maybe if I had the Necro Gardener, they would have made a different board. So it was difficult to see. So here they contemplate, they definitely do these weird plays because they have a Dark Arm in hand. So they're doing these weird plays where they set a card and they discard a card to bounce the tomato back. And then they're going to set the card again and then ditch the tomato that they bounced so they can have 3 darks in the graveyard. Yeah, so they do this really roundabout way of making a Dark Arm. So the Dark Arm is important, even though I don't have Gores in my hand. It's important that he has the Dark Arm because it solidifies his game, where if he presses, the Gores can pretty much check if this was a Synchro monster. Let's say this was a level 6 Synchro monster or Stardust or whatever. The Gores would have checked both of these guys. All those 3 monsters, so I didn't mind that. But what I did mind was a Dark Arm. So if he brings out the Dark Arm, he can just blow up my Gores. So he had no fear. He doesn't have any fear of Gores, is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, if I had the Necro Gardener, maybe I would have survived with my 60. Let's see, so that would have been 1,400 damage more. So I would have been at 6,300 life points. Yeah, so the Necro Gardener would have been able to stop the 2,800, and then I would have taken 5,100 total. But who knows? After he shows me his hand, I think he has a Heavy Storm in hand and a Torrential on Mirror Force. Yeah. So that was game 2. So he was able to take that one off the fact that I don't have a Necro Gardener. But it was definitely preventable because I did have the Greffer in my hand, and I could have summoned it to basically ditch a Sirocco. From my hand, I think I had a Sirocco, and then I would have been able to have Vayu and Sirocco in the graveyard. Right, so this is the good game here. So I think, in my opinion, this is one of the better games I've played in the past, I guess, month. And so you'll see why, because there's a lot more intricacies to our decision making. There isn't much blowout cards being played. There is cards being blown out, but it's more like it's whatever. So he does a set here, and pretty much you should never set 2 unless you have Solemn Judgment set. And this is what I did. I set 2 into a Solemn Judgment. Pretty much this deck doesn't play Raikou, so I don't have to mine the Raikou, so I decided to safely set 2. So I didn't have a monster that I can summon, so I set the 2 first because I'm waiting for him to summon a monster or set a monster so that I can summon Sirocco. Make a decision here to attack the monster even though it could be a Pyramid Turtle. Because the Pyramid Turtle can essentially get the card that he already, to fill out the condition that he already has in his hand. So the reason why I'm afraid of attacking is because the Pyramid Turtle can get the Plague Spreader zombie if he has a Goblin zombie in his hand. But if he already has a tuner in hand, then he wants to get a Goblin zombie off the Pyramid Turtle. But I decided to do it anyways because I do have sets that can deal with the Bryonek. So I destroy the Mizuki, he draws return, and I think he sets a monster. No, I think he brain controls my Sirocco. So I'm looking at my hand, I see a Wing Blast in my hand. So the Wing Blast could essentially deal with the Bryonek, but that was after he calls priority and bounce all my stuff. I also decided to attack with the Sirocco into the set because I don't want him to tribute for Caius here. Caius would actually do a lot of damage to me, even though... Yeah, because I want my Sirocco in my graveyard, so I decided to attack with the Sirocco there. So he he just sets a card and he passes here, I think, and I just declare an attack for 2,000 here. He has no response. Pretty much gives me information as that is in a battle trap or D prison specifically because the D prison is pretty good against the Sirocco. He draws another card. He draws a Heavy Storm. But thankfully I did have the Solemn Judgment to pay half my life point to stop that. Yeah, so from here, I think what he does is Brain Control, yeah. So he takes the 800. I'm not sure, so the Heavy Storm was the top deck here, so that means he already had a tuner in his hand with the Brain Control. So I'm kind of curious as to why he held the Brain Control. This card might be a return set. I don't know. I don't know why he would hold off on Brain Controlling my Sirocco. I already had the Sirocco on, and looks like he has a tuner in hand that he could have specialed here. So now I'm kind of curious as to what the set is. So if he decides to make any Synchro monster besides Star Ruler, the Wing Blast can deal with it. But from this perspective, he could attack with these both, and then I think this is a Mirror Force if I remember correctly. So I would flip it if he decides to make an attack here. The only thing, so these 2 back rows basically deal with all the Synchro boards. So he decides to use up my Sirocco here, putting the Sirocco in the graveyard. He makes a Stardust here, and he makes a Goblin Zombie here. He pitches the Malicious, and he special summons the Mizuki. So he does this play because he can pretty much guess that if he if I have the D Prison set, he should definitely attack with. If I have a D Prison and a Mirror Force set, is what they're trying to bait out. Then it's correct to attack with the zombie, the Goblin Zombie, and the Mizuki first. And then if these don't trigger, then it's most likely is a D Prison, so he's not going to attack with the Stardust. So on the start step of the battle phase, I decide to Wing Blast, discarding my Heavy Storm to bounce the Stardust. And then if he declared as an attack here, I could just Mirror Force everything. And which I do. Okay, yeah. So that was the back row that I had. I draw for turn. So if you can see here, I have a. So if you can see here, I mill the Vayu. So that generated me the plus. The charge generated me a +1. He's down to 2 cards, and he has a Malicious and Mizuki. So technically, he has 4 to my 1, 2, 3, 4. But he's gonna draw for turn, so he's gonna be up a card, even though I Mirror Forced his board. So I make the Armwing. He forces the Bottomless out, which is good for me because now he's out of traps. And now I decide to set the Raikou, and Raikou can deal with any monsters except for Bryonek. I think he has a Goblin Zombie in his graveyard, if I remember correctly. No, he doesn't. So the Mizuki can only bring back the Zombie Master. So he top decks the Brain Control, which is exactly what he needed to out the Raikou. He flips the Raikou, destroys the Raikou, and mills 3 more. And he mills a Goblin Zombie. The Goblin Zombie was exactly what he needed so that he could basically make the... he could banish the Mizuki and summon the Goblin Zombie. So kudos to him. And then from here, he banishes the Mizuki, and he attacks me directly. And unfortunately, another luck for him, he mills my return. The return would have helped me get back in the game, as I would have been able to banish these two. But I'm still up on card advantage. He has his 2 cards and his malicious, so that's 3 to my 4 or 5. Looks like I have 5. So I found his graveyard, I look at it and he has a malicious engraved. I counted the number of dark monsters. So if I do kill the goblin zombie somehow, that fills up his darks for dark arm, for a top deck dark arm. And here I make this really complicated play. I have a circle in my hand and a gale, and it looks like I have a brain control. So the least I can probably do here is to at least put a body on board so he doesn't attack me with goblin zombie. So I do that. I summon the Sirocco here. And I do have the Eccentric Boy, it looks like. So I could have made Eccentric Boy synchro with the Sirocco. And then the Sirocco would have been in the graveyard, but I don't have Vayu. And I didn't want to commit too much to a second bottomless or any sort of battle trap. So I decided to summon the Sirocco here and then make the Gale here. I have the brain control in my hand and I calculate damage. In my head it was like 3300 plus the 11. So I chose to I contemplate whether I wanted to have the goblin zombie in the future, that so that I can just take the monster and basically OTK him. But 33 and 11 was only 44, so that wasn't enough to clear him. He would have 800 life points left. So I needed one more monster, so I decided, I took this really long way about thinking about this, because if I kill the goblin zombie here, he can search for a Plague Spreader zombie, banish the malicious, summon the Plague Spreader synchro with the malicious, and make any level 8 that can beat over anything I make with these 2 synchro monsters. So I didn't want to commit that. I didn't want to commit into that, and so I decided to leave. I basically decided to leave these 2 out because if I did make a Thought Ruler, or if I make a Colossal Fighter, he can make a Dark Arm or a Dark End Dragon to send the Colossal Fighter to the graveyard, and that would make me lose my tempo. So I didn't like that. If I made a Stardust, he can just make anything that's bigger than Stardust, like a Thought Ruler or a Colossal Fighter. So I didn't like any of those options, so I just passed on that. I decided to half the Goblin Zombie here, and the reason why I do this is because with Goblin Zombie halved, if he draws into a Book of Moon, he won't be able to kill the Sirocco or the Gale. If it's actually, the Gale has 400 defense, so he'll be able to kill the Sirocco. And everyone's all like, "Well, why don't you just synchro?" Like, no, that's not good. Just like that's not the play. Especially since I didn't have a back row to protect the. If I made a Stardust here, I wouldn't have a back row to protect it. I decided to set brain control, hoping that he would be afraid of the brain control, and then pass. Another reason why I passed here is because he can theoretically draw into a malicious, because the malicious is still in the graveyard. So he could top deck a malicious that's pretty much dead. He can also top deck a dark arm that's pretty much dead. And so if he does have the dark arm here, main phase 2 dark arm would have been Stardust would have been good to the main phase 2 dark arm, because if he makes so if he draws the dark arm, this goblin zombie was the 3rd dark monster he needed. So what he can do is crash the goblin zombie into the weaker monster, taking about 750, and then special summon the dark arm and then kill these both off the field. So he has a lot of good top decks for sure. I mean, I named 2 of them, but and essentially he only has one good top deck, which is the dark arm. The Future Fusion probably would have been dead because he doesn't have malicious. He has the malicious in graveyard. I don't think he plays Prodigy. He draws return. I set the brain, and here I think he draws a Foolish Burial, if I remember correctly. The Foolish Burial could dump the Plague Spreader in hindsight, and then he would have been able to. But he needs one more card so they can top deck for the Plague Spreader. So he puts the Goblin Zombie defense mode, hoping that I don't have it out. I forget what I top deck here. I think I draw into it like a dark monster. Dark Cyborg does have this ability to be able to bring itself out of the graveyard by banishing a dark and a wind monster from my hand. So I do have the Eccentric Boy in my hand. So I might have drawn a dark monster so that I can bring out the Dark Cyborg out of the graveyard. So I do that. It looks like I drew another Dark Cyborg, which is pretty much the reason why I did that. And just for you guys who don't know, you can actually synchro summon a eccentric boy on the field with another monster on the field, so that kind of limits his ability. You can only synchro summon with the monster in your hand. So otherwise, I would have just summoned the eccentric boy, synchro summon into something to force out like this back row, and then special summon the Dark Cyborg after. So here I make this Dark Cyborg play. I'm hoping he doesn't respond to this summon because he already knows that I'm afraid of killing the Galma zombie. So let's say I attack over with my weakest monster. This would have been only 4,700 damage and he would have been still alive. So I was hoping that he didn't respond to the summon, but he does respond to it because the brain control would have been game here. So it was a bottomless here. So he kills the Dark Cyborg, and my brain control is yet again not going to give me the game. So I decided to pass again. So the card that he drew right here is a malicious. So then he activates the foolish here to dump the plague. Top decks the malicious to special summon the plague spreader zombie, and then banish the malicious to special summon the top decked malicious that he drew. And here he has the option of either synchro summoning into a Bryanak or Goyo to steal any of these. But I think he decides to go for a Thought Ruler here. Or maybe he makes a Stardust. Let me try to remember. Okay, he makes a Dark End here. Not sure why he makes a Dark End here. I'm trying to think here. If he made the Thought Ruler here, my brain control would have been not live. So the Dark End makes it so that he makes... I don't know why he makes a Dark End, to be honest. I think it was more correct to make the Thought Ruler here. Because Thought Ruler, if he makes a Thought Ruler here and he attacks over the Gale, pretty much my Sirocco can't run over the Thought Ruler. And I'm already afraid of attacking the Galma zombie. But I don't know why he makes Thought Ruler. So he sends the Sirocco here so he can do the most amount of damage. He attacks over and I take 800. So here I'm top decking. I do have a brain control set, so I can theoretically use this, but I'm not sure if Dark End can be used on an opponent's monster or your own monster. Yeah, so it looks like you can only target a monster your opponent controls. So even if you steal it off the brain control, you can't send it off. So I draw, and it looks like I draw maybe a return, or not a return, a burial. So the burial helps me recover here. I send back the arm wing and the Sirocco. No, the Vayu, sorry. The arm wing and the Vayu, and I also send back the eccentric boy in case I somehow manage to get the Dark Cyborg. I make the Armor Master and I attack over the Dark End here. But in hindsight, he should have made something stronger than Dark End, because if it was stronger than 2500, I can't run it over. I guess with the Dark End, with the Dark End, he was able to send off my Sirocco off to the graveyard, and then deal. So he was able to deal with 2 monsters. But if he made anything else, he would have attacked the Gale, or yeah, he would attack the Gale because the Gale would have half the Synchro monster, and then my top deck Burial would have killed the Synchro monster anyway. So I guess it was correct to make the Dark End. I just didn't see it at the time. So here I feel pretty confident here. He already uses Malicious, and he's already uses Plague Spreader, so we're kind of in a battle of attrition here. At this point I don't really care what he searches for, so I decide to swing with the Armor Master. Let him search. There's no reason to hold back this attack because then he would just synchro summon into something. I also know that he can't search for Pyramid Turtle off the Golem Zombie because Pyramid Turtle's defense is too high. I search for Spirit Reaper, and I'm feeling pretty confident because the Brain Control can deal with the Spirit Reaper, but it'll just buy him another turn. So I think here I draw Oppression and I set it. So at this point I'm feeling pretty confident that he doesn't have a way to deal with the pretty much deal with the Oppression unless he sacrifices his Spirit Reaper for a Caius. So I attack here. I make the option of not brain controlling the Spirit Reaper to kill it. I wanted to make him pretty much set another card so that he doesn't have to worry. So he sets another back row and he sets another one. I think I draw an Eccentric Boy here and then decide to make a Synchro play. I wasn't too worried if this was a Torrential, because that would mean he would have to waste 1, 2, 3 to my 3 cards. Yeah, it looks like I drew a Cyber Dragon. So I summon the Eccentric Boy here, and then I Synchro Summon into a level 8. And I think I make Red Dragon Archfiend. And then he Torrentials here. So now he's on 2 cards and I'm on 2 cards. He loses his Pyramid Turtle here. I draw off return and I set another card. I think it was a Deep Prison I set. Oh, it was MST. So I destroy his back row. So we're pretty much on top deck Gores here. He sets another back row. I activate Lure. I banish the Gores that I have, and I do another T set. Draws return. He passes. I think what did I set here? I don't remember what I set. We'll just have to find out. Yeah, it was a Raikou. I destroy his 3 back row. He targets with MST. I mill Sirocco. I look at his graveyard to see how many power spells he has left. He's used Brain Control, Book of Life. No, he's used Brain Control, Heavy Storm, and another good spell card. I'm blanking out right now. So here I made the decision not to attack with the Raikou because I looked at his graveyard. He doesn't have a Gores yet. So I'm pretty much thinking he has a Gores in hand. He does a T set to my, and I just shift to my Raikou to defense mode. Not gonna deal with that. Activates a Lure here, banishes a Dark Monster. Banishes the Dark Arm, so I'm like, okay, cool. He doesn't, he's not gonna bring out Dark Arm this game. So I draw into a Chaos Sorcerer here. So this is a weird one. So he has a Solemn Judgment set here, and I special summon the Chaos Sorcerer. I made the read. I checked his graveyard. He doesn't have a Solemn Judgment in his graveyard, so I pretty much make the read. This is Solemn Judgment. My issue is why he didn't flip the Solemn Judgment to the Chaos Sorcerer, because theoretically I can shift this to attack mode, attack the monster, and then banish the monster that basically floats. And so I pretty much, since he didn't respond to this, I make the logical conclusion that it wasn't Solemn Judgment. But it was. So I attacked the Pyramid Turtle. Unfortunately, he should have been attacking with the Raikou. I do have 3 Deep Prison set, and there was no way that he could have recovered. So I gave him a chance to come back here by attacking the Pyramid Turtle, because here I can just normal summon any tuner monster and make a level 6 aggro. The reason why I also attack with the Chaos Sorcerer is because I realized that I have less cards in my deck than he does, so that kind of want to force me to end the game as quickly as possible. So in my brain I was like, I should try to end this game as quickly as possible and attack with Chaos Sorcerer, when I should have been more careful about this. So he summons a Deep Sea Diva here, activates the effect. Here I could have flipped the Oppression to kill the Deep Sea Diva, but I wanted him to use a Pyramid Turtle here. So he synchro summons into Bryanak here. And with this 3 cards in hand, he calls priority to kill everything. After he solemns, of course. I pay 800 and then he pays 2400 life points. He pitches all 3 cards out of his hand to bounce all 3 of my back rows back. And he attacks over the... He makes a Thought Ruler here. He makes a Thought Ruler because I do have another Darkened Light in my graveyard. So that pretty much means that if he bounces this Chaos Sorcerer, it would be pretty much bad for him. It pitches this Future Fusion, Trap Dust Shoot, and another card. I don't respond to the summon because my sets were Brain Control and 2 Deep Prisons. He synchros into a Thought Ruler here, and then here's where yeah, he makes a good read here to make the Thought Ruler. Attacks over the Chaos Sorcerer and gain his life points back. So he's now at 4,700 life points. I draw for turn here, and I draw into a Vayu. The Vayu can get me to the Silverwind, so I'm hoping that he doesn't draw it out to this. I do have only 900 life points here, so I set the Vayu, hoping he attacks the Raikou, gains a 2, and passes. And then I just draw into something, basically to deal with the Thought Ruler. The reason why I kept 1 card in my hand is because I could technically top deck a Plague and synchro with it. And top deck, I can top deck for Plague after I use Plague Spreader for the top deck. So he tributes for Kaios here, and of course he targets himself and then he banishes for game. So yeah, that's the game for you guys. That game was pretty intense. It was literally the battle of attrition on that one. But I think in hindsight, I think the game would have ended a lot better for me, because I basically attacked over the Goblin Zombie, allowing him to synchro summon with it, because the Pyramid Turtle gets him another Pyramid Turtle, so that if he ever draws a tuner monster, he can just synchro with it. I should have attacked with the Raikou into the Pyramid Turtle, take the 1200 life points, because I think I had a lot of life points left. Yeah, and then if he tries to kill the Raikou, I can just D-President it. He already uses Heavy Storm and his MST, so I wasn't too afraid of that. Yeah. But yeah, that's the game for you guys. There was a lot of decision making in that game, and I think when you play a combo deck versus a combo deck, these lines get really complicated, and so you end up on like really strange boards, like you saw with the Sirocco and the Gale. But there's a reason why I do that is because I don't want to commit too many resources to lose out that resource to any sort of monster that comes after, especially since he had the Malicious Engrave. But I guess the one play that I do want to recap on is whether is I should have attacked with Raikou into the Pyramid Turtle and then banished the main phase 2 with Chaos Sorcerer. But yeah, that's gameplay video for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the content for Commentary Monday. I'll do another one for next Monday, and I hope you guys enjoyed my little jank deck that I had. It's really cool. I think having a Vayu turbo deck that can splash in a Dark Side Morgue with Eccentric Boy is a pretty cool idea in general. But yeah, see you guys on the next video. Bye.